Recording in progress.
Welcome into the latest episode of Betting the Pitch with your host, the real_G Warner. It is another day. We have midweek soccer action across Europe. We're going to go through the EFL or Carabao Cup in England, Serie A, as we have midweek run of fixtures there, a normal slate like it was a Saturday, Sunday, Monday type of schedule. And then the DFB Pokal, the German Cup. On this episode, we will have an ultimate best bet coming end of show, 8-2 the last 10. Trying to keep that streak going as long as possible. Haven't lost, I think, in 5 episodes, it feels like. But just trying to keep that running. And we'll be going through every bettable option on these cards and then try to get you out something before so you can all listen to it for the Tuesday matches and then Wednesday and Thursday as we close out the week or the midweek. So no Champions League this week, but there's always a Betting the Pitch podcast with the real_G Warner. You can follow me on all the various platforms at the real_G Warner on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, Betting the Pitch. And if you could leave a 5-star review, it'd be huge for the search ranking. So I'll get into England since that is where the money is. And we'll start with, as I get through the EFL trophy, because that doesn't matter to me. Let's see. Okay. EFL trophy. Okay. So League Cup. We start with Southampton hosting Stoke City. So Southampton, a 1.5 favorite right now. A little bit more juice. Over under is 3. Juice more to the over. Southampton is a big 1.5 goal favorite. Yes, at home at St. Mary's, gigantic number, and shows how potentially they have found a Premier League level, and maybe they're much better than Stoke. However, Southampton, I mean, we're very, very fortunate to crawl out of the championship playoff. So top 2 teams in England's second division get automatic bids to the Premier League. That was Leicester City and it was Ipswich Town. Southampton finished, I believe, 6th and won a playoff against a third place team and then against the winner of the 4th and 5th and ended up getting through on a goalless draw, it seemed to me. So, I'm not necessarily a believer in Southampton. Haven't been all the season. Was really kicking myself for not playing under this weekend when they played Manchester City. Was pretty worried about them playing out of the back, I'll admit. But not enough for 4 goals to be scored, unfortunately. And lost 1-0. And I got to say, Southampton, they need to be worried about staying in the league. So if there's ever a chance for them to rotate, it is here against Stoke City at home where they expect to be able to potentially move through in the League Cup. But also, there's a lot of risk there. Now, Stoke are not on Southampton's level, of course. They're in a lower division, but very interested in potentially playing the visitors here to keep it close, and probably under 3 is more interesting to me than plus 1.5 because a 2-0 Southampton victory would mean a loss on the Stoke side and a win on the total. So those are my interests there. On, I guess, later today, same kickoff time, but in the afternoon here in Dallas, Texas, we have Newcastle hosting Chelsea. Currently pick 'em with the juice split both ways. Over under is 2.75, juiced all the way to over. Potentially going to see this number hit 3. And Chelsea have scored a ton of goals in their season. They've got a ton of goal threats. They haven't used Cole Palmer in the Europa Conference League. And I feel like I didn't think this was scheduled for Tuesday initially. It feels like it's been moved up in the schedule. Newcastle at home played very well there. They were, I think, as small as a quarter goal underdog at home to Manchester City last season in the same or one of these cups. I think it was the League Cup and knocked out Manchester City. Newcastle seem to go for these things. They don't have Champions League to worry about this year, so that should mean an even stronger lineup. The big question is what Chelsea shows up, because Chelsea are so talented, so much better. It feels like the Todd Bowley, despite all the jokes that were made on the Betting the Pitch podcast network by @thereal_G Warner, feels like things have gone in the right direction. I love what he's done with Strasbourg and French Ligue 1 as well. And to me, I mean, it makes sense that this is a pick 'em because Newcastle plays so well at home, but I'm leaning to the Chelsea side. Would love to see them as an underdog, but I don't think that's going to happen. As for the total here, Newcastle score goals at home. They don't away, but I imagine they're going to be defending a lot of this matchup. So I'm not sure I have much of an interest until we get, well, I guess below 3. I'll lean to over 2.75. Another shout out to my guy, Joe Dollar, who every time I say I like an over in a soccer podcast, I think he gets an extra hair on his head. So helping you out. Soon you'll have a full head of hair. Just kidding. Don't bet on that. We'll move next to Brentford hosting Sheffield Wednesday. Currently Brentford a 1.75 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under 3.25. Juice pretty heavily to under right now. Brentford, they've scored goals, so many goals in so many matches. Are they deserved? Probably not. Brian Mboma, like one of the best FPL players out there. If you're an FPL player, feel free to invite me to your group next year, so I can forget to set my lineup as I always seem to. Almost as bad as starting T. Higgins this weekend, who's inactive for the Bengals. Oops. But birthday shenanigans, I guess. Brentford, a 1.75 goal favorite to a Sheffield Wednesday side that are the worst Sheffield group or club compared to Sheffield United, who were just in the Premier League last season. Brentford are a gigantic favorite, and the total above 3, though, makes me interested that they potentially rotate for this matchup, though Brentford are playing for the cup trophies more so than anything, just to stay in the league, in the Premier League. So possibly they play their best here. 2 matches a week are easy things for the Champions League side because they're so much deeper. Brentford are still a pretty low budget team in the Premier League. So I don't know that they're this cautious or this careful in this matchup, but they're a pretty gigantic, hefty favorite, nearly 2 goals right now. Brentford have been scoring. Do I trust that to continue? I do not. I think my biggest interest here is in Sheffield Wednesday coming into the western part of London and seeing a low scoring under 3.25. I'll move to Wednesday now for some more League Cup action. We don't have any Thursday, so this will be the last of the League Cup section. And then we'll move to Serie A in Italy and then move to the DFB Pokal in Germany. But Brighton, a quarter goal underdog at home to Liverpool. All the juice on Liverpool away from home. Over under is 3, juice more to under. Now, Brighton coming off a wild game with Wolves, which was, I think, 1-0 after 85 minutes, and then somehow finished 2-2. Brutal for the Wolves and under play that I had, but I think I lost $20 on the game. So I guess it's could have been a lot worse. But Brighton, to me, I mean, I was singing their praises on the last episode and then I bet against them. I really like them as an underdog. However, Liverpool are very, very difficult. I mean, one of the best clubs in the world. We saw them go win at RB Leipzig. So it doesn't seem that tough of a situation for them to go win against the Seagulls in Brighton, only an hour and a half or so from London. But Liverpool did play at Arsenal on Sunday this past weekend, and that was a big, big deal, of course, for the Premier League title race. And the nice part for Liverpool is they're so deep. But how deep is the abyss, as Young Jeezy once said. Not sure anyone expected a Young Jizzle reference on this episode, but this is what happens on Tuesday morning here in Dallas, Texas, I guess. Far away from Atlanta for the record. But I'm interested in the home underdog. I don't know that I want to get involved here, especially because it looks like Liverpool will climb to a 0.5 goal favorite. As this number ticks up, I get more interested in Brighton, and I lean to under 3 just because Brighton are not the same all-out attack that they were under Roberto De Zerbi previous season, who's now since moved on to Marseille as manager. And Liverpool are not Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. They're playing a much more counter-attacking, pragmatic, give the ball away even, let you have it type situation. And I think that's good for totals because I don't think they've reacted yet, especially the huge push on 3. I'll move next to Preston hosting Arsenal. Currently Preston, a 1.75 goal underdog at home. A little bit more juice on the home underdog, actually. Over under is 3.25, juice pretty heavily to under. I'm not sure if we see this fall to 3. I feel like Arsenal and over money will hit as they do every weekend. I think as we saw a bunch of that on Sunday as well before Liverpool, despite Arsenal playing a pretty makeshift lineup. I don't have a great insight into Preston. They're not one of the 100 clubs I follow, plus Champions League, plus Europa League, plus a little Europa Conference League as well. But I'm going to be looking deeply into this one because I still trust Arsenal to make this a very, very low scoring match. I don't know necessarily that I trust Arsenal to score much. There's a lot of rumors or even just takes that Bukayo Saka was rushed back for Liverpool. We'll see if he plays in this one. I expect a fully rotated lineup, and that's going to make it hard for Arsenal. Maybe not hard for them to win away from home, but probably hard for them to cover the 1.75. So I imagine that climbs to 2 if there's any decent lineup here. I'll lean to under 3.25 because I think Arsenal keep a clean sheet even away from home. Move next to Manchester United hosting Leicester City. Currently, Manchester United a 1.5 goal favorite with almost all the juice on Leicester away from home. Over under is 3, all the way juice to over. We probably see this climb to 3.25. I just haven't seen it for Manchester United this season. Big favorite doesn't really compute with what they performed like or what I've watched. Playing a lot of competitions, a lot of ways to potentially find some goals. Other than a Porto match, that was about it. I think Leicester, had a pretty bad loss in their East Midlands derby with Nottingham Forest, but it was on Friday where Manchester City Manchester United played Sunday. We'll get to Manchester City in a bit. I think Leicester are in great position here to keep this close. They've been scoring a lot of goals and seeing a lot of goals in their matches was a little bit surprising, a little bit nerve-wracking for an under. But I think Manchester United at home, the under squad that will probably dictate the terms of this game. I'm interested in under 3, which looks like it'll be 3.25 at some point. But really, I still like Leicester as a 1.5 underdog as well. I'm looking to be against Erik ten Hag until he's long gone and his history has been forgotten. Aston Villa then hosts Crystal Palace. Currently Villa, a 0.5 goal favorite at home with almost all the juice. Over-unders 2.75. Juice pretty heavily to under. Aston Villa conceded a late equalizer, though they got off the hook for a ridiculously missed penalty. It's good for an under player, but if the Premier League officials are going to see clear handballs called a handball penalty 100% of the time in the 86th minute, just because it's going to tie the game and anger a home crowd, then that's a big thing we need to handicap or work into our handicapping at the @G Warner. And just talking to myself here. But it's nice for unders, of course. And it was ridiculous that there wasn't even an on-field review. And I got to say, if the Premier League has gone completely to the opposite direction of the rest of the leagues, like we have Spain over here and the penaltitos that basically just are dying for goal scoring, maybe because they haven't scored a lot of goals this year, but they're seeking anything they can call a penalty, they will. And then England on the complete other side, just basically saying, oh, unless a guy's murdered in the box, we're not calling it. Or at least unless you play volleyball with your hands, then we're not going to call a handball penalty. Then that's certainly something we need to adjust, and will definitely probably make sense why I've had such a really good English Premier League season so far, though I don't know that there's been a ton of those. Regardless, back to Aston Villa, 0.5 goal favorite, balancing Champions League. Crystal Palace just not playing well, trying to balance any sort of thing to get up the table after an incredible close to the last Premier League campaign and then really slow start this year. I'm interested in Crystal Palace. They're a very different team away from home, have been for a while. But Villa, to me, 0.5 goal is probably a reason. It's a reasonable price. The market dictates everything here, but I lean to under 2.75 is probably my biggest interest, though I do have some, nostalgia and belief in Oliver Glasner as a great manager who came over for Eintracht Frankfurt and previously VfL Wolfsburg in Germany. And I believe in him, but it hasn't really been a good start. And so might need to see it before I really get involved in the side here. But under 2.75 looks good. Last but not least, on Wednesday, we have Tottenham hosting Manchester City. Tottenham a pick'em right now with more juice. Over-unders 3.25. Juice really heavily to under, which is not how either of these two teams play. We've seen Manchester City basically stepping on everyone's neck for an entire match and see when they can score. Haaland got on the score sheet early against Southampton on Saturday morning, but then they somehow were unable to find another goal the rest of the day. That was probably the upset of the century of the week. Tottenham on the other side, they are always playing up in your face. I'm surprised to see them pick them a little bit more juicier. Maybe that suggests Manchester City are rotating, but Manchester City is very deep. And I think Tottenham also pretty deep, but this seems like a pretty good matchup, and we'll see how valuable this matchup is. Manchester City playing Champions League, Tottenham playing Europa League. There's certainly some extra incentive for Manchester City to rest here. They're also playing for a Premier League title, but Tottenham probably see themselves still in the race as well. I don't know that I really want to play a pick 'em against Manchester City, even though they are a team I want to bet against as a favorite, especially a big one. I don't know. There's not a lot that I want here because I don't really want to play unders with Tottenham. We'll see on lineups, but I guess I'll put Tottenham as a pick 'em as my biggest interest in this one before we get to the ultimate best bet selection. So if you haven't been with the podcast for a while, thank you for coming in. But I'm essentially picking a favorite bet from each of the leagues or league cups that I cover on each episode, and then cutting that into 1-minute video posted on Instagram at @the_G Warner and on YouTube at @the_G Warner. Though you might be watching this already on YouTube. If you are on YouTube at @the_G Warner, please hit subscribe. But then I grade myself and try to keep a record going because I did not do a great job of keeping up with the numbers last year. But 8-2 to start the season, so I have certainly a reason to keep that going. But we're going to try to keep that going throughout the season so we can get a good picture of what I like when I'm recording live, talking to you as I'm thinking about what my favorite pick out there is. From the EFL Cup, the English Football League Cup, their League Cup, I will go with Leicester City under 3 goals visiting Manchester United as my favorite bet from that English portion of this episode. Now we move to Italia. I don't speak the language, but unfortunately, I just little words that I heard in songs at Italian games. And then I know bad ones to say, but I'm going to try to keep this a family-friendly podcast. Para la familia. Famiglia, actually, is I went in Spanish there. No Spain on this episode. Thank you. I guess I could go through the Copa del Rey, but I think that's better for everyone with 6-goal favorites across La Liga to probably leave that behind. We'll start on Tuesday with Cagliari hosting Bologna in Italy's Serie A. Cagliari, a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice over unders 2.25. Juice a little bit more to over than to under. Bologna are a Champions League side based on players that are not on the team and a manager that's not there. So I'm very interested in Cagliari. They did not play great, took a red card in their weekend match. That all didn't go great. I think it was on Friday, actually. But Cagliari, they have a firefighter manager, basically one that's brought in every year to fight relegation. And I'm very curious to see what he does from the start of the season. But what that tells me is he plays Davide Nicola, plays the same way, which is play defensive and try to shore up shop and don't let the other team score, because that's how you get at least a point. And if you do score and they don't score, you win. So Cagliari, a quarter goal underdog at home, very interesting. And it seems like Bologna money has been coming in. I don't think it's deserved. And lean to under 2.25 there as well. I don't think Bologna are a good goal scoring team, shouldn't be a road favorite. So a lot of interest in the home dog there. Also today on Tuesday, October 29th, we have Lecce hosting Verona. Currently Lecce, a quarter goal favorite. Almost all the juice on Verona away from home. Over unders 2.25, juice all the way to under. So not a lot of goals expected in this matchup. Verona's defense has been pretty weak, but ultimately, they're always devoid of offensive talent as well. I think Lecce they played a really tough matchup on the road at Napoli this weekend, and I think lost 1-0. So that was competitive and good for them after getting blasted by Fiorentina, who seemed to be scoring a million goals a second, it feels like. And by the way, and if you're in the chat, feel free to throw something there if you'd like me to go a little bit further on someone or deeper on something. Happy to do so. But I think my biggest interest in this one is under 2.25. Some interest in Verona on the road, but I don't know that I want much to do with them. And it looks like that under is getting pretty juiced at the moment. So if you want it, you might want to act sooner rather than later, maybe as soon as right now on this podcast. Milan then hosts Napoli in the big one on Tuesday night. We have Milan a pick'em with all the juice over unders 2.5, just a little bit more to under. Napoli have been so good, and I guess are now like Serie A title favorites, it seems, after a good start to the season, though it feels like a very easy schedule so far. Now they get a challenge as they go to San Siro, though Milan have been all over the place so far this season. New manager, new desires, Cristiano Pulisic, as they call him in the stadium. He's been playing great. Good for Captain America. Wish I had his clean jersey to wear on this episode. That'd be probably more appropriate than an Egyptian one, but I think Napoli is the side I want here. I'd love to see them move back to a quarter goal underdog, as we've seen that kind of jockeying between pick'em and a quarter. I lean to under 2.5, as that to me is Napoli getting their way and dictating tempo here. But I probably like that less than the side, actually. Moving to Wednesday, we do have Thursday matches as well. So stick to it for some Halloween episode action here. Empoli hosts Inter Milan on Wednesday. Currently Empoli a 1.25 goal underdog with all the juice right now. Over unders 2.75, juice really heavily to under. Empoli have been awesome. They've been the gift that keeps on giving, unders and their side. And I can't really explain it because they have no youth system or they just take loanees from other teams and somehow they play a really great brand of football. And it's gone really well for them so far this year. Well, now is their biggest test. This is the best team in Italy coming in, and a probably angry one after Inter surrendered a 4-2 lead to Juventus, took a 1-0 lead, fell behind 2-1 in the Derby d'Italia, and then we're up 4-2 thanks to 2 penalties and a lot of other shenanigans. But ultimately, Empoli are going to play a very different game. I expect Inter to play better defensively as well. So I might like under there more so than I like the Empoli side. But getting more than a goal, I think this is a very good chance that Empoli, who gave him a pretty soft penalty to Napoli a couple match days ago, I think last weekend, and 2 weekends ago from when recording this. And unfortunately, cost them a match against Napoli. I think they do the same type of setup and really keep Inter Milan quiet. Lautaro Martinez looked a little banged up this past weekend. We'll see what his status is because he's very important to that team. And of course, Çalhanoğlu, who's been missing as well. Next, we'll go to Venezia hosting Udinese. Currently Venezia a pick'em, more juice than Udinese on the road. Over unders 2.25, juice more to over. Venezia, they got a pretty good draw on the road. That's what they're going to be doing here. I'm surprised to see Udinese only a pick 'em away, but I guess there's been a little bit of souring towards what Udinese have done so far this season. Venezia are interesting to me at home as a pick 'em, though I don't know that I have the number I want necessarily. Still lean to under 2.25, though. A high scoring match this weekend certainly gives me a little pause on that one. Move next to Juventus hosting Parma. Currently Juventus a 1.25 goal favorite. Juice split both ways, and over-under is 2.75 juice to split both ways. Rare to see that, but if you're looking for better juice prices, especially on soccer, go to BetOnline, SportsBetting.ag. There are links in the podcast descriptions on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. But Juve have been giving up multiple penalties in every match, it feels like. Danilo, their captain, is out there playing center back when I think he's usually a right back at this point in his career. And it's only been getting worse. And I don't know what Juve have to solve that, but Parma are going to be very aggressive and to play up the pitch and try to attack. That seems naive, especially away from home, but that's probably my interest there. I mean, 2.75 is a gigantic number for Juve. But if you play Parma getting the goal and a quarter and you play under 2.75, there's a good chance you could win both if Juve get the game they want and win 1-0. But man, I feel like Juve are going to do their best not to give up a penalty in this one, but maybe you get worse at that. Last but not least, on Wednesday, Atalanta hosting Monza. Currently, Atalanta a 1.5 favorite with more juice. Over under is 3. Juice is split both ways on this one. Monza are, they've scored a bunch of goals in the last 2 matches after scoring essentially none in the first 7 of the season. I don't know that I trust Monza to keep doing it. Feel like a lot of the goals in the Monza match this past weekend were mistakes. That does worry me going on the road to Atalanta, but Atalanta haven't been scoring as much this year. I think they're a better team, but they haven't been finding the net like they are known to. They've had some big scoring outputs, of course. I think rather than backing Monza's kind of quiet offense, I'll go under 3 on that one. We'll move to Thursday. 3 matches on Halloween here in the United States. We have Genoa hosting Fiorentina. Currently, Genoa a 3/4 goal underdog with all the juice. Over under is 2.5. Juice almost all the way to under. Fiorentina have been scoring a ton. I feel like a lot was Roma being really, really stupid, naive, foolish, all the things you could describe Zeki Celik's challenge to give them a penalty if they fell behind 1-0. Genoa have not been playing well, though. It's really hard to want to back them, even as a big, big underdog at home. The total feels inflated, though, based on what to me is still a Fiorentina offense that struggles, even though they put a ton past Roma and a ton past Lecce the week before that, I believe, if I remember correctly. But big home underdog. I just don't think Genoa are going to score much this year. A lot of their players are scoring for other teams right now, with Gudmundsson for Fiorentina, though he looks injured, and also with Retegui, who's been scoring a ton for Atalanta as well. Moving next to Roma hosting Torino. Currently Roma a 3/4 goal favorite at home with almost all the juice. Over under is 2.5. Juice pretty heavily to under. I don't know what to do with Torino. They were a really great under and underdog side under Ivan Juric. Now he's their manager at Roma after a lot of falling out with the leadership. You could argue that that's a good sign for Roma, try to get their manager a big win, but Roma have been playing horribly. And a lot of the drama surrounding the club with firing a longtime servant, recent manager hire 4 or 5 matches into the season seems like that's backfired because Roma have won, I think, 1 Europa League match and done really nothing else. Losses to Inter, on the road to Fiorentina, and really not much performance otherwise. Maybe the best they did was a goalless draw with Juventus, but Torino have been struggling. 2 teams struggling, though. One is a 3/4 goal favorite and has to win by multiple goals to take my full unit. I'll put Torino on my list. I think the under 2.5 is of interest as well, because I think Torino want to defend, and I think Roma are not able to score goals right now. It's been really, really slow for them. And last but not least, we have Como hosting Lazio. Currently, Como a pick'em, all the juice on Lazio away from home. Over under is 2.5. Juice pretty heavily to under. A lot of respect for Como here that I don't really agree with. Lazio have been great. They've been one of my favorite teams to bet across all of Europe. Moved to an underdog at Twente in Holland in the Europa League, and that was an easy 2-0 win, though certainly aided by a red card. I just feel like Lazio have great years on a new manager who's come in and been firing, not fired. It's been a really good run for them so far. So I like the start. Can't really argue with that too much. I like it, and happy to see it, I got to say. So for my best bet from Italy before we get to the Germans, DFB Pokal, as that match day, I guess, starts in just an hour here. from when we're recording. I'm going to go with that Empoli Inter Milan under 2.75 goals. That's very scary. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. But that's my biggest interest at the moment. And I think that I just want to keep backing Empoli, and I think there's some value going against Inter at this point in the season. All right, last but not least, we'll get to Germany, and we'll cut this all up into a 1-minute reel and at the real _G Warner on Instagram. Instagram does reels. It's a short on YouTube. We'll start with Kickers Offenbach hosting Karlsruhe on teams that I don't follow from the Schweizer Bundesliga or worse, Schweizer Liga. Kickers a 3/4 goal underdog with all the juice. Over under is 3. Juice pretty heavily to under. I expect these matches to be very tight and very low scoring. That's my interest in that one. Under 3. Though I can't name a player from either squad, so I probably should move to the next, which is RB Leipzig hosting St. Pauli. Currently Leipzig a favorite, but I'm not seeing the spread right now. Let's see if I can find one that's close. Probably about 1.25 goal favorites. I think that's where they were last night. Over under here is 2.75, moving down from 3. And that's for good reason. Leipzig scored 3 goals this weekend. I don't know that they were necessarily deserved. We're pretty fortunate with Willy Orban plus Luis Openda. And we've got a lot of injuries to worry about with Xavi Simons hurt for Leipzig, plus Luis Openda, speaking of, limping off at the end of the game last week. There's a lot of problems there, I think. We'll see what that ends up looking like. But St. Pauli, they've been really goal shy, haven't scored a goal at home this season and haven't in like 11 or 12 years because they haven't been in the Bundesliga. But they go to Leipzig, and I think we see a low-scoring match here. 2.75. I'd like a lot more to see 3. But still, 2.75 is enough for me to want to play under in this matchup, as I think we see a very low-scoring game with Gulashi also hurt for Leipzig, which maybe we get a little bit more on the total here. But I think the Leipzig defense has done a lot to protect their goalkeeper. So I think we see a bunch of that, again, repeat itself. Under 2.75 is the current number. Moving next to Augsburg, hosting Schalke 04. Currently, Augsburg, 1.25 goal favorite to a Schweizer Liga side. Over under is 3.25. Juiced more to the under and a little bit more to the Augsburg side, as I said. Schalke 04, one of the most famous Bundesliga German clubs, but they have been on hard times for a while. Pretty big underdog, especially after Augsburg beat their hated Ruhr rivals, I believe. Anyway, I went to the match. I should know. Riviera Derby. What am I? I don't know what I'm talking about. It's probably not worth it anymore. But Schalke, I mean, they are building their way to try to get back into the Bundesliga and then stay there for the rest of history. It's going to be a tough road, but Augsburg, I think it's probably haven't seen them as a 1.25 favorite to anyone in a very long time, besides maybe Darmstadt last season, who I think they conceded 6 against, and Ermedin Demirovic had probably a hat trick by the first 30 minutes. I need to do some more research and get off this podcast to learn a little bit more about Schalke 04, but that's the way I lean to the underdog getting a 1.25, but also to under 3.25, because while Augsburg have been giving up a ton of goals, I still don't really trust them to score many. I'm not sure that they're going to get a bunch of goals from like outside the box from Alexis Maurice again this weekend, from just like he did this weekend. Moving next to Bayer Leverkusen hosting Elversberg. Leverkusen a 2.5 goal favorite, which feels small to me, especially with a total of 4. I don't have anything on Elversberg, but I'm not really sure what to do with Leverkusen. They seem to be one of those Jekyll and Hyde teams. I just want to be against them, and I'm not sure Elversberg are good enough for me to do that. VfB Stuttgart then hosts Kaiserslautern. Currently Stuttgart a 2-goal favorite. Over under is 3.5, and it's juiced all the way to over. Kaiserslautern are in the lower division, but were competitive, if I remember correctly, in this competition last season. Stuttgart are going to possess the ball. They're going to be tough, and they probably can name their number here. But I think it's going to be harder for them to score goals against a team that's going to sit in and defend. That's been a theme of the DFB Pokal over the seasons I've been following it, and I'm interested probably more so in under 3.5 than I am in the 2-goal underdog away from home. Move next to VfL Wolfsburg hosting Borussia Dortmund. Huge matchup, big names, especially Wolfsburg, a 1/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice right now, which is a little bit surprising. Over under is 3, and it is juiced more to under. Dortmund have been terrible away from home. Road sickness, as they were calling it on the broadcast this weekend. And certainly that'll happen after you play Real Madrid, take a 2-0 lead at halftime, lose 5-2, and then lose to Augsburg, lowly Augsburg on the road in the Bundesliga. So 3 straight road games, really tough for a team not playing well. Wolfsburg have certainly had their issues this year and multiple years. But I lean to that quarter goal underdog at home, and I'm interested in under 3. The push is valuable, but I probably like the side better than the total, because I think Dortmund are potentially going to give up a bunch of goals yet again, even from a weaker offense. John Regensburg then hosts Greta Fürth, one of the worst Bundesliga sides I've ever seen. But Regensburg, I think, just lost 8-3 and sacked their manager. So who knows what's going on in this matchup. Regensburg, a quarter goal underdog at home. All the juice on Fürth away from home, probably for that blowout. Over-unders 2 3/4. She's all the way to over. And that's all I'll say about that matchup. Move next to Köln hosting Holstein Kiel, another famous Bundesliga side in the Schweizer Liga, Bundesliga 2 right now. Köln, a 3/4 goal favorite with more juice on the Holstein Kiel side, the Bundesliga side, going away from home. Over-under is 3 1/4, and it's juiced pretty much even on both sides. I think Holstein Kiel are the interesting one because they are in the Bundesliga, but they also didn't spend any money on their squad, and I don't know what to do with them. I need to see a lot probably to have any sort of interest in doing some more with them. Cologne on the other side, I feel like are a big favorite here. So I'm into the Kiel side, but probably not going to play that. More interested probably under 3 1/4. Move next to the Wednesday slate of matches. There are a few. Hertha Berlin, another big side in Schweizer Liga. They're hosting FC Heidenheim. Currently Hertha, a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over-under is 3, just almost all the way to under. Heidenheim, not an under team. They're going to try to score goals and win this match away from home. Probably can. I don't know how much I want to get involved with that one, though. So certainly interested in the home dog in Hertha Berlin, getting that quarter of a goal. And I guess the under 3, because like I said, this tournament plays tight. Eintracht Frankfurt then hosts Borussia Mönchengladbach. 3/4 goal favorite are the Eagles. Over-under is 3 1/4 here, juice very heavily to under. Not much I want to do here. Frankfurt score goals. Borussia Mönchengladbach don't defend, are really bad away from home. But it's a cup match, so it's hard to say that you like an over here. Sorry, Joe Dollar. Moving next to Paderborn, hosting Werder Bremen. Currently Paderborn, a quarter goal underdog at home with more juice. Over-under 3 1/4, just really heavily to under. I think Werder Bremen have shown that they can score goals this year, though it does feel very fortunate. They are facing a weaker side, so I guess I'm into the home dog, but I don't know enough about Paderborn at this point while I'm recording. I'll be diving into the research after this. Freiburg then hosts Hamburg. Currently Freiburg, a 1-goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over-under is 3, just a little bit more to under. I'm still not a believer in the Freiburg offense. Got a good goal to start, to take a lead against Leipzig, then shipped 3 in the second half. Not great, but happens, and they've not had any success with Leipzig over the years. And we're bet pretty heavily on maybe for the Javi Simons injury news on Saturday. But Hamburg, probably the biggest Schweizer Liga side that's been there for like 15 years, it feels like. They're a big underdog here. I expect them to go to defend at Freiburg. But man, it'd be nice to have Hamburg in the top division. I just don't know that's going to happen for a while. I'll go lean under 3 in that one. Moving next to Dynamo Dresden hosting SV Darmstadt, a recent relegation to the Schweizer Liga. Dresden a pick'em right now with all the juice right now. Over under is 3, just more to the under. I don't know what to do this one, so I'll move to next. Arminia Bielefeld, 3/4 goal underdog at home to Union Berlin with all the juice. Over-under is 2.5, juice pretty heavily to over. Forever, I'm interested in Union Berlin unders, especially away from home as a big favorite. Arminia Bielefeld are awful and have been for a while, and we're one of those teams that were amazingly staying in the Bundesliga, but they are down and out-ish for good reason. Lean to that, I guess. Man, I don't love that, but I guess I'm into the under 2.5 on this one more so than the side. Hoffenheim hosts Nuremberg, which is good for Hoffenheim because they need to play at home, it seems. They're a 1 1/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over-under 3 1/4, just a little bit more to over. Need to look into Nuremberg because they don't have enough. And last but not least, the bigger names and probably biggest matchup of Wednesday, Bundesliga names. It's Mainz 05 hosting Bayern München. Currently Mainz a 1 3/4 goal underdog at home. Almost all the juice on Bayern on the way away as well. Over-under is 3 3/4, juice more slightly to the over. I lean to the home underdog. Mainz have not had great success with Bayern, or they have had great success. So the 1 3/4 might not matter. It might be one of those you probably could see a draw or you see them lose by 5. That definitely worries me, playing a home underdog and potentially a under as well. But I'm interested in both those angles. I think Mainz in their intensity, and it really does come into play at home. I think it will do better for them in this type of competition, but Bayern are very deep and Mainz are not. So we'll see how serious the lineups take it. That's a very important thing to get into because expect a lot of movement across these cup matches because Pretty much, I think they build the lines based on a little bit of conservative nature on, okay, players might not be in here, or the best ones, but also then there are big changes about an hour before, and we're 55 minutes from the DFB Pokal kicking off on Tuesday. So I'm going to get a ultimate best bet out of here and then get into our, I guess, capping for this weekend. If you're not a member of my Patreon, that's where all my stuff goes down. It goes down in the DMs, it goes down in the Patreons. At the @real_G Warner. You get all my leans plays, get a notification if you download the app as soon as I lock something in. So go check that out as I get my video ready. I guess I got to actually get out of here with it before I leave the German Bundesliga's DFB Pokal. I guess it's a different organization technically, but I got to get a best bet there out of the way so I can get it onto the podcast for later. I'll go with that Hamburg-Freiburg under 3 goals as my best bet there. But it's time to get it into the ultimate best bet, so let's do it. Hey, this is the @real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet for a midweek match day covering the English Football League Cup, the Carabao Cup, the Serie A midweek match day in the Giornata in Italy, and of course the DFB Pokal in Germany, the German Cup competition. If you haven't listened to the podcast, go check it out, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as well. This is the 1-minute reel that comes out for every episode I do. We're 8-2 our last 10. Try to keep that going. From the EFL Cup in England, I like Leicester City visiting Manchester United under 3 goals. In Serie A in Italy, I like Empoli under 2 3/4 goals, hosting Inter Milan. And DFB Pokal, I like Hamburg on the road at Freiburg under 3 goals. But for the ultimate best bet on this episode, 8-2 last 10, try to keep that streak alive. I'm going to go with Leicester City at Manchester United under 3 goals. I don't see a lot of goals from a big home favorite. I think Leicester get better rest advantage, take a little bit more interest in defense on this road trip. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. I will see you all on the next episode. Actually, we have college football coming out today with Biggie Spend on pregame. We have NFL episode at @A_Schnicker, NFL, getting you ready for this week after a 2-0 last week. So I'll talk to you all very soon. And I hope you have a great, profitable day.
Recording stopped.